She was counted out long before her story even began. People spoke about Loila like she was already finished, already defined, already predictable. They whispered that she wasn't meant for much, that her life would stay small, that nothing extraordinary would ever come from her. And for a long time, Loila believed them. She let their voices carve out the limits of her world. But limits hold power only when you accept them, and she didn't know yet that her entire life was waiting behind a single decision. Loila wasn't the loud type, or the type people naturally admired. She grew up learning how to stay out of the way, how to shrink herself so she wouldn't disappoint anyone. When she failed, people said it proved their point. When she succeeded a little, they said it was luck. She carried their opinions like heavy stones, never questioning why they had so much power over her. But something inside her always felt restless, a quiet pulse reminding her she was meant for more even if she couldn't see it yet. One night, after a long day of being overlooked, Loila lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. She felt tired of her own life, tired of the repetition, tired of feeling invisible. And then a thought she couldn't ignore surfaced. It was small, fragile, almost unbelievable, but it demanded to be heard. What if they were wrong? What if she didn't have to stay who she was? What if the life she wanted wasn't impossible, just unexplored? That question hooked itself into her mind and began pulling her toward change. She tried to brush the thought away, but it followed her. Every time she remembered how people talked about her, the thought pushed back. What if they don't know what you're capable of? What if you don't even know yet? The next morning, she made a decision that felt simple but carried the weight of transformation. She wrote 3 lines on a piece of paper. Change your mind. Change your habits. Change your life. Felt dramatic, almost unrealistic. But she kept repeating it because it gave her direction, a spark of hope, a hook pulling her out of the life she no longer wanted to tolerate. The first challenge was changing her mind. It meant breaking the cycle of negativity that had lived in her thoughts for years. When she looked in the mirror, she forced herself to see potential instead of flaws. When her thoughts said she wasn't enough, she questioned them instead of surrendering. It felt unnatural, uncomfortable, even silly at first, but she kept doing it. Slowly, a new voice began to grow inside her. A voice that sounded like strength, like possibility, like the beginning of a life she never allowed herself to imagine. Changing her habits came next. Loila realized her daily routine kept her exactly where she didn't want to be. She started waking earlier. She cleaned her space. She read about people who rebuilt their lives from nothing. She learned new skills, practiced them consistently, and allowed herself to be a beginner without shame. Every new habit gave her momentum. Every step forward told her, "You're not who you used to be." The third step, changing her life, wasn't a single decision but a series of small, terrifying jumps. She applied for opportunities she never believed she was qualified for. She reached out to people she once thought were out of her league. She tried things that intimidated her. Every step felt risky, but staying where she was felt worse. Every uncomfortable action told her, "You're getting closer. Don't stop now." For months, nothing major happened. Her progress was slow and invisible, and people still didn't take her seriously. But she kept building. Transformations rarely announce themselves early. But inside she could feel something shifting. She could feel herself rising. And that feeling became the hook that kept her moving when everything else told her to quit. Then came the moment that shifted everything. Loila entered a competition she once thought was only for the naturally talented, the confident, the extraordinary. She submitted her project with trembling hands, knowing she had poured everything she had into it. She didn't win. But she didn't walk away empty-handed. Someone on the judging panel saw something in her. They reached out and said, "I think you have potential." For Loila, those words felt like sunlight cracking through a long, dark sky. That connection led to her first real opportunity. It was bigger than anything she had imagined for herself. She was terrified, but she remembered her list. Change your mind. Change your habits. Change your life. So she stepped into the challenge, even when fear tried to drag her back. Over the following months, Leora worked harder than she ever had. She grew quickly. She learned to speak with confidence, to think with clarity, to trust her ideas. People began to recognize her contributions. Her name was mentioned in rooms she never expected to enter. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't underestimated. She wasn't the girl people dismissed. With every accomplishment, a new hook formed in her heart. If you came this far, imagine how far you can still go. One evening, her mentor looked at her and said, "You've become someone I don't think you even realize yet. You were counted out, but you changed everything." That sentence echoed in her chest long after he said it. 'Cause it was true. She had done what no one believed she could do. She built a new version of herself from the inside out. She never forgot where she started. She never forgot the girl who doubted, feared, hesitated. She carried that earlier version of herself with compassion, knowing she was the reason the transformation mattered. Leora's journey wasn't about proving people wrong. It was about discovering who she could be when she finally stopped holding herself back. And if you're listening to this, her story is a reminder. You are not finished. You are not defined by who you've been. You can choose a different life. You can rewrite your story. You can rise even if no one believes in you yet. Leora wasn't special. She was willing. And willingness can move mountains. You may feel counted out, underestimated, forgotten. But that's not the end. The moment you decide to take your life into your own hands, everything shifts. Starts quietly, grows slowly, but it builds power you can't imagine. And one day, the world will have no choice but to see the person you always knew you could be.